So today we're going to prepare the first meal. I'm choosing to do the 3 that I got in the HelloFresh box. So today I'm going to do the peppercorn-crusted ribeye steak with truffle mac and cheese and an heirloom tomato salad. And I chose this one because it takes the longest and I have the most free time today. So in HelloFresh, everything comes in a bag and then the meat comes separately. So I have the ribeye steak right here and we're going to open up this bag. We're going to see what's in here. That's always kind of the exciting part because it's always a mystery. So, we make sure it's all here. So, I have some black peppercorn, and the salad, the spring mix, still looks like it's okay, the heirloom tomatoes, a cute little container of milk, some pasta, some mozzarella, they call it mozzarella, panko crust, beef bouillon, truffle zest. That's the stuff that Carl smelled toxic the last time. Flour, a lemon, and a shallot. So that is all the ingredients. I got my recipe card here. It says, step 1, preheat and prep. Preheat to 400. And bring a pot of salted water to a boil. Put that on my bigger burner. Hopefully on the theory that it will heat faster. Half tomatoes and the lemon. Half peel and mince the shallot. Crushed peppercorns in a bag. With a mallet or with a pan. Do all that. I love these tomatoes. I always use these cutting boards because I find them very handy. Plus, my cutting board is 20 years old and I worn it out. So instead of getting a new cutting board, I just buy these. When I prepare my food, I always like to put it in these little bowls, and that way everything's kind of ready and in its little spot, and it's tidy. Okay, and we're going to half peel and mince the shallots. It took me a long time to figure out what to do with the shallot. I used to get shallots in a vegetable box, and of all the things, I was just like, they would rot, because I'd be like, I don't know, but ever since I started getting these meal kits, they send shallots all the time, and they tell me what to do with them, so I finally figured out how to use a shallot. Catch those peppercorns. Find them. There they are. I just use my meat mallet. Really loud. I guess the most for next. I don't think I did a very good job with that. So, the other alternative, which isn't quite so loud, is if you have a mortar and pestle, you could probably use that. That's probably a quieter option. Mix. Last part of step 1. Mix 1/4 cup panko. We sent more. Oh, let me measure it. And there's a little oil in a small bowl. They sent half a cup. Alright, so I only need 1/4 cup of this. Overlap with olive oil. Put a little bit of olive oil. It's not an exact science. Salt. And then it says season with salt and pepper. So whenever it says season and salt and pepper, I just put a little bit. And that's it. And then the next step is cooking the pasta, but my water's not boiling yet, so I need to wait a little bit longer. Alright, time for step 2. So So the pasta water is almost boiling, and so while I'm waiting for just the last bit of that, I'm going to go ahead and start the meat prep. So it says to pat the steak dry with paper towel. So I'm just going to open up the meat and set it on my paper towel lined plate. Okay. Oh, that's I'm trying to figure out. So it's just one big steak. So the water's boiling. And we want to cook this stirring occasionally for 9 to 11 minutes. So I'm going to just put it on for 11.
Okay.
So it says to season that. We're going to season the steak all over with salt and pepper. And the crushed peppercorns. Can you have too many? I know. Can you have too many crushed peppercorns? Let's go to step 3. Alright, we're going to start the salad and the sauce. So in this one we're going to whisk together 1 teaspoon shallot. So, gotta get your chopped shallot back out that you have. And I'm just going to measure 1 teaspoon off of here. Maybe a little bit more. I always say a little bit more. You like onions. Well, depending how they're used. 2 teaspoons lemon juice. So I haven't squeezed this yet, but I think if I just squeeze that into here, we'll be able to get our 2 teaspoons. So 1. So that's half the lemon. 1 tablespoon olive oil. So for this company, you have to have your own olive oil. Actually, for all the companies, you have to have your own olive oil, or whatever oil you want to use. But they usually say olive oil. Sometimes they use canola oil if it's something that you just don't want an olive oil flavor in. But whisk that. Got my baby whisk. Just a little salt. Okay, we're gonna start cooking. So we're gonna make, I think we're gonna make the sauce for the mac and cheese is what we're starting now. So it says to melt 1 tablespoon butter in a large pan over medium heat, add half the remaining shallot, and cook until soft in 3 minutes. And we're gonna add the flour, stir until pasty, and slowly whisk in the milk. Alright, so 1 tablespoon butter. That's about to be a tablespoon. We're gonna melt this. Half the remaining shallot. I'm gonna cook that for about 3 minutes. It's starting to brown pretty good. The gas stove can cook things a little faster. If you don't have a gas stove, it cooks differently. I turn my heat all the way down to low and this kind of stuff because otherwise you can burn things really easy. That's looking pretty tasty. And we're just going to add the milk from my cute little tiny milk carton. This is how we do it. Ha ha! Okay. Part of my entertainment just comes from the packaging. I guess I am a sucker for marketing. Alright. Slowly whisk that in. Well, that wasn't really very slow. Mac and cheese gravy. That's what I would call this. Gravy for mac and cheese. It's like cheese sauce. But there's no cheese in there yet. So I turn the heat up a little bit at this point after it's all stirred together. We Just gotta stir this until it's bubbling and kind of thick. You don't want to leave the stove when you're doing this. You gotta keep on this. So you want to stir this until it's thick and bubbly. So I think it's looking bubbly and it's getting thicker. So just a couple more seconds. So we're gonna remove this from the heat. And then we're just gonna stir in the cheese, the mozzarella. Scissors are good to have on hand to open all these packages. We're going to stir in the mozzarella and the truffle zest, made in Italy. I read somewhere that like truffle is like, you know, a marketing scam, but you know, in high-end restaurants. So. Side note. So it's just a little package, but okay. So there's our mac and cheese sauce, and so now we're just gonna have to drain the pasta. And they said to reserve 1/4 cup of the pasta water. Sometimes I always forget that step, but I am not going to forget that step today. So I'm gonna just take 1/4 cup of that water out if I need it. Put it right there. We're going to drain this pasta. So we're going to add the pasta to this cheese sauce, and then any reserved pasta water that you think it needs to make it. Whoops! There's my first mess of the day. Alright. So I think it could use a little bit of water. So I suppose this would depend on how creamy you like your mac and cheese. So I'm going to call that good. So I think that looks pretty good. So now it says to divide that between 2 ramekins, and I just have, I'm going to use these. I have individual casserole dishes. They're not round. The picture's round, so forgive me, but I think these will work. So it says to lightly grease them, so I'm just going to use Pam. Okay. Now, I'm going to divide this between these 2. I'm going to just use my spatula and get all that cheese sauce out of there, because you know you don't want to waste the cheese sauce, because that's the best part. Plus, if it's all out there, it'll make your pan easier to clean. They look even. Even is important. Otherwise, my husband won't be happy if I steal his his mac and cheese. Okay.
Known for it.
All right. So we are going to sprinkle the panko over this. Okay, I'll put a little crust on there. There we go. And we are going to bake this in the oven till browned and bubbly, about 10 minutes. And while that's baking, we are going to cook the steak. And washed out the pan I used for the mac and cheese, and I'm just going to use that same pan to cook the steak. So we are going to heat a drizzle of olive oil. Gotta find my olive oil in the pan. So I just dump, and like that. We're going to heat that up a little bit, and then we're going to cook this steak. It says 4 to 7 minutes per side. I'll probably do 7. It's a pretty thick steak, and we are not a fan of completely raw meat. Sometimes these companies, they can give really low estimates on how long to cook a steak. So if you like raw steak, you can follow that. But I always round up, and sometimes I even go longer. But I think 4 to 7 per side 7. I'm gonna go 7. So, which is as soon as this is heated up. So that looks warm enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pop this in here and then 7 minutes. And while that's cooking, I'm just gonna go and read through the rest of the card and see if there's any like last minute details I can take care of while the steak's cooking. So the pasta's in the oven, the steak's cooking, and the main thing we're gonna have left to do is we're gonna make the salad, which can be made at the last minute. So I've already got the dressing. That was in this bowl. And so what's gonna go in there is the salad and the tomatoes. And then after the steak's done cooking, we're going to saute the shallot that's left for a couple minutes and then pour the beef stock concentrate in with 1/3 cup water, and then we're gonna make pan sauce. So we're on the home stretch. They said this recipe was gonna take 45 minutes, and I think that's pretty accurate, but I've been working pretty hard and being pretty focused, so if I were talking a lot to my husband or not in a focused state, this one could take a while, so, but I think it'll be very good. So there's just about a minute left on the steak, and so the first side I actually ended up turning it after 5 minutes and just another 5, so I actually went less time than they suggested. This is like a miracle on steak. So I put the 1/3 cup water in this, and so then I'm going to pre-mix this for the pan sauce. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this in this container and blend it up before I add it to the pan after the steak is finished cooking. Sometimes I add a little extra water than they say. This one's probably pretty good, but when you're making a pan sauce, you don't want all the water to go away. I've been guilty of that. Where'd my pan sauce go? Gotta eye it. So the steak's done. We're gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna put it on this clean cutting board thing, and I'm gonna cover it with this. And I'm going to let that rest while I make the pan sauce. So this makes good pan sauce. So I'm going to turn that heat way down. And we're going to go ahead and add this. And we're going to scrape up all that brown bit. We're going to cook this for just a couple minutes. I'll scrape the bottom of this pan to get all of that good stuff off the bottom. It's good. It says to cook for 1 or 2 minutes till it's thickened. Just kind of concentrate the flavors a little bit. That looks about done. Move these from the oven. So we're going to go ahead and slice the steak. Actually, before I slice the steak, I'm going to make this out. So in the dressing that we have already made, stir that one more time. And we're going to add the lettuce, pre-mix. Add the lettuce. We're going to add the tomatoes. Combined with the lemon vinaigrette we made. Looks good. You know what I forgot to add? There's always something. I forgot to add the shallot to that. You know what? We're going to turn that back on real quick. We're going to cook that shallot in there. I got ahead of myself. No one's perfect. It'll still be a good sauce. Alright. Well, while that is simmering, so those shallots soften just a little bit, now I'm going to slice the steak. So, nice big sharp steak knife. If you don't have sharp knives, I feel sorry for you. I bought these knives. My neighbor was selling Cutco knives like 20 years ago, and close to 20 years ago, and they were really expensive, and I'm still using them, and they're like
almost as sharp today.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Okay, so we're gonna slice up the steak. And that looks about right for us. So it's not, it's a little red, but it's not like weirdly red. I'm not eating a raw cow. I don't like raw cows. My dad likes raw cows. Now, to compensate for my air, I need to add a little more water to pan sauce. Okay, we're done now. So, I saved it. So we're gonna go ahead and plate this. So, I think that's even. That drizzled steak. A little bit of the pan sauce on that. There we have